Hi everyone. Great day to you, grace to you. I'm so happy to be able to come again once again on this platform. Whether you're hearing this on Ignite or on YouTube or on any other one of our platforms, a big welcome to you and thanks for tuning in again this morning. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to a lot of these videos, for I do like to post as regularly as I can any devotional messages or messages that I feel like God has been sharing with me or dealing with me about, and that I think could also help you as well in your walk and your journey, or your faith journey rather, with God. Today, I've actually got a passage on forgiveness, actually, or rather, a little brief message on forgiveness that I wanted to chat with you about today. And so I've titled the message for today as The Power of Forgiveness. Now, I'm going to relate this message back to the beginning of the year when we entered this year and we decreed that this would be the year of taking action. And this is one of the areas where I believe a lot of people stumble and a lot of people fail to take appropriate action in the area of forgiveness, myself included. I'm guilty as charged. And really, why does God want us to forgive? Why does He require it for us to forgive? And how do we forgive? Now, the Bible actually says something, and before I even get into that passage, I want you to think and to begin to think about forgiveness as an action, a verb that we can take in our relationship to draw closer to God and in our thinking of how we can get to our destiny and the places that God has for us to reach. One person in the Bible that's an amazing example of forgiveness is Joseph. And any of you who followed the story of Joseph would know that Joseph was a young boy when we get into his story of, I think, about 17 years of age. And he gets this amazing prophecy and a dream from God that he would become governor over Egypt one day. And later on, he tells this dream to his brothers, who end up betraying him and pretty much selling him into slavery. He's sold into slavery for a good many years. Over decades in slavery. And the path for Joseph pretty much goes downhill from there. Not only is he sold into slavery, but he ends up also being, charged with rape of Potiphar's wife, falsely accused. He's also forgotten about in prison for many years. And Joseph, in the end, arrives at his journey at being governor over Egypt. And has to confront his brothers again, who started this spiral in his life by throwing him into slavery. And he actually says to them, what the enemy intended for harm, God used for good, or God intended for good. And that is such an amazing heart, where he didn't hold this against them. But he actually says to his brothers, whatever the enemy would have wanted to use this for, God has actually used it for good. And so I want you to picture Joseph in your mind as I read this verse from the Bible in John 20, verse 23, which says, "If you forgive the sins of any, they are forgiven them. If you retain the sins of any, they are retained." I think the biggest thing I want you to get on forgiveness today from this verse is, and from the story of Joseph, is that forgiveness is an action that you and I take. It requires for us to do something. Sometimes we think that it's God who can come and just switch our hearts over, and all of a sudden everything is fine and we love everybody and we are fine and we can forgive and all of this. But actually God requires something from you and me, and that's for us to take a step of faith and choose to forgive anyway. When we take that step of faith and we choose to forgive, it allows Him to come in and do the work that needs to be done, not only in healing our hearts, but in also dealing with that situation however He sees fit. It also reminds me of a passage in Psalm which says that to the faithful He shows Himself faithful, and to the just He shows Himself just. And you and I can have the type of relationship with God that we desire, and we get out basically what we put in. So if you want to receive forgiveness, and if you want to receive mercy, it's time to be giving forgiveness to others, and it's time to be giving mercy to others. When you think about it, there's nothing anyone can ever do to you today that is worse than what Christ saved you and I from. So there's nobody worth holding unforgiveness from. I don't care who they are or what they've done or what they've said to you or anything like that. But there is absolutely nobody worth that on this earth holding unforgiveness towards. And when we retain that unforgiveness and we retain those feelings of bitterness, we end up projecting or harboring that pain. And it's almost like we're holding on to that pain. Today, I really want to encourage you to take a step of faith and forgive. There is power when we forgive. There is power in forgiveness. There's a power of release that operates in our lives when we forgive. There is a power to enable us to get to our destinies with no blockages, nothing blocking our way or being a stumbling block in our way when we choose to forgive. I dare you to forgive this week. I dare you to begin to send emails, to write notes to people, to pray, and to release people this week. This is a step that we will not reach where we need to go in God if we don't learn to forgive. Choose to let go of those sins and not retain them. Choose not to live in a point in the past when you can live in your destiny in the future, leaving all of these things behind. Let's cast aside every weight that hinders, every obstacle that hinders, and press on to what God has for us. So that's just my message for you today, that really, truly, indeed, if we retain the sins of others, they're retained. God cannot do anything when we are holding on to it. But when we release it and we give it to him, then he has it and he can operate the way that he wants to. So that's just my message for you today, and I really hope this has blessed somebody. I'm off now, but I really just speak grace over you and over your new week. It's always an honor and a privilege to share this word with you, and I pray that even now, the spirit of forgiveness would just be upon you, of release of mercy would just be upon you, even just by hearing this message. God bless you, and goodbye.